Hey guys, subscribe for daily content. And if you're shopping for gear, make sure you check out the description for the newest items at some of the very best online retailers. There's also links for some of the items that I personally recommend. Thanks! What's going on YouTube? Metal Complex here, and welcome to this week's episode of The Knife Guy. So what are we talking about today? So this is one of the most consistent and valid reasons I think that people don't buy expensive knives. And that can mean anything. I'm not talking about any one specific tier. Obviously, I have a bunch of different price points out on the table. So think of expensive as whatever price point you are currently uncomfortable with paying. But one of the most valid reasons that I've ever heard to not jump up into that next tier is I'm afraid of losing it. Very, very valid. Extremely valid, right? That makes perfect sense to me. There's a lot of people come up with all sorts of different reasons not to spend this or that. Usually it's just, I didn't know they get that expensive and I don't like, it doesn't make sense to me. I'm not even going to consider whether or not I know what goes into a knife at that tier. I'm just going to automatically assume that they're trying to rip my face off and I'm smarter than them. That's the default one, right? That's a dumb take. But totally valid, right? I don't want to lose it. I lose knives all the time, right? Yeah, I was just talking with a friend the other day, and he was like, the way he said it was so perfect, and it wasn't. It was just like my buddy who like has a pocket knife. He was very unaware of this entire crazy world, the world that we exist in. And I was showing him some nice knives, and he immediately was like, these are obviously super high quality. And, he was like, I'm kind of interested in this, but, I believe that they're, everything that they appear to be. I'm just really worried that I would lose it. Like the one that's in my pocket right now, and he pulls out this kind of something, Ozark Trail something or other, right? Nothing wrong with that. It's been working for him, clearly. He was like, I'm lucky to still have this one after just a few months, But I bought this one after losing a different one. And I realized I was like, this is, as soon as people get introduced to, the world that we're in right now, that's a totally logical fear, right? I think a totally sane person approaches this world and says, well, I certainly did not know that any of this existed, but it appears to be a lot like any other enthusiast world. There are tiers of things and they get more expensive. I'm sure there's many, many variables and I don't know them because I'm not a part of this community. It's interesting though, and I think the main thing holding me back is the fear of losing the thing that is worth a lot of money, right? I mean, the more money that something is worth, the less likely you are to just take it about with you, right? It's like if you're driving a 2001 Mercury Sable, right? You're going to be a little bit more uncomfortable. Like if you're just taking a trip to Walmart, right? Obviously, taking your 2001 Mercury Sable to Walmart is not something that you even think about, right? But if you were taking your Lamborghini to Walmart, that is a totally different thing. Both things drive. Both things are designed to go from A to B, right? But one of the things is extremely expensive, right? And that is going to be the most consistent fear from person to person. It doesn't matter if you are extremely wealthy or you are not, right? Driving that Lamborghini and putting it in the Walmart parking lot, right? People are going to experience, varying levels of anxiety, right? But all people are going to be like, I don't know if I'm nearly as comfortable with this as I am the Mercury Sable. Obviously, right? We get it. I think this is valid. I've spent 4 minutes saying that it's valid. But as someone who not only collects expensive knives, but uses expensive knives, every single knife out on the table is a user, right? And if you know what you're looking at, then you'll know that these knives out on the table range anywhere from about $45 to about $1,500. There's no way he uses that Rockstead stop. This is the one that doesn't even have a tip anymore. And actually, you can see there, the zero edge is actually starting to get a few nicks and things. And I think I've actually got some scratches in this bad boy. Yeah. Woo! Right. He doesn't use that. Oh, never mind. Yeah, I do. I've said like it's become kind of this. It's a much easier thing for me to do now, just throwing the Rockstead in the pocket, right? Now, I'd be lying to you. I was putting it in my pocket as if you guys could see it. I'd be lying to you guys if I said that my emotions were exactly the same putting that guy in my pocket versus putting the Pyrite in my pocket, right? No. I'm much more confident carrying this guy now than I would have been years ago. But is it exactly the same thing? No. Even after, doing this for so long and the honeymoon phase of this knife has well worn off, right? It's still an awesome knife, and the edge is unbelievable. Like, Rocksteads are no joke. Just to cut away for a second. If you've ever wondered, like, are they that good? Yeah. Holy crap. I have never used anything that cuts as long or quite like a Rockstead. Holy moly, that edge is ridiculous, right? But even in the way back in my subconscious, sorry. And I'm saying this to help people because I think that if that's all that's holding you back, if you're like, I want to buy an expensive knife. And again, expensive could be, $100. It could be $500. It could be $50, right? I'm used to buying the $15 little, or the $7 pull it out of the jar at Home Depot knife, right? $50 for a pocket knife, yeesh, I don't know. I might lose it, right? Whatever. It doesn't matter. I'm not here to label expensive, right? I'm saying whatever your threshold is, let me help ease the anxiety. When you start to carry something that you are not used to carrying, like that has a value that you're not used to carrying, even the deepest parts of your subconscious, right? Even if you can shut away all the other anxiety of it, the deepest part of it is substantially more aware that you are now carrying this thing versus what you are used to carrying, right? And that will generally be the case. Yes, people do lose expensive knives. It happens. But I bet you anything, based on a few different easy to understand factors, it happens way less often. Like, not like, oh, it's like for every 10 $25 knives that are lost, a $1,000 knife is lost. No, not at all. Number one, there's way less people carrying expensive knives. That's the first thing, right? And that kind of works against what I'm saying. Maybe if there were way more, they would lose more often. But also, the people who carry expensive knives are definitely going to be substantially more protective of those things than they are their $20, $30, $40, $50 knives or whatever tier, right? That is inexpensive. There are people on this earth who think a $500 knife is just not really that, expensive of a knife, right? Obviously, how much it bothers you, it depends on the individual. For me, losing any knife would bother me. Any knife. If I lost a $40, if I lost my my Miguron here, right, which is a $45, $50 knife, yeah, I'd be freaking bummed out, man. I would go buy another one immediately. But I would suck because it's still $50, right? Like, it's not like $50, oh, who cares, right? Just throw it out the window. No, that would super bum me out, right? I would be freaking devastated if I lost the Rockstead, though. But I'm definitely 1,000% more aware of the Rockstead being in my pocket than this guy. I'm way more protective of it. We've talked about this before. It's always a good idea to carry some sort of backup knife, right? Some little tiny. I always try to carry my Victorinox Cadet and whatever pocket knife is for me, right? For me to use. That way, if somebody comes up and says, "Hey, can I borrow your knife?" I'm not, even with the busted tip, I'm not giving anybody my Rockstead. No way. You can use the Victorinox, right? Knock yourself out. But you're way more aware of it. It's very, very unlikely you're going to take it out of your pocket and leave it on a table somewhere, right? Especially, again, for people who have not yet graduated into that tier, right? Now, if you're still questioning the value and exactly how, good you're going to feel about the purchase that you made, then you've got other things that you may or may not want to work out. Here's something, to those people, you don't have to. I think a lot of people assume that I am here strictly to push people into buying more expensive knives or to justify a $200 knife to somebody who's just looking for a utilitarian cutting tool. No, I've always maintained, and if you didn't know this, hear me now, I've always maintained that whatever you're using, if it's working for you, then just do that. There's no reason. Like, if the thing is working and you don't desire something or you don't need something better, then you already have what you need, right? I'm not here to sell you on anything. I'm saying if you're curious and what's holding you back is the fear of losing it, coming from somebody who has never lost what I would consider to be an expensive knife. I have lost a couple of, growing up, I've lost a couple of super budget, like gas station-y knives that I picked up from God knows where, right? Or they broke or whatever. But like losing stuff, no, never. I think another big thing is having dedicated organization, dedicated storage. If I'm in my truck and I have to take my knife out of my pocket, there's a specific place that it goes. That's very, very rare. It's if we go somewhere and they're like, hey, you can't bring a knife in, right? Then I've got a specific place. That is extremely rare. Usually I know before I leave the house, is this a place where it's going to be okay to take a knife, right? And I'm not all about like, I'm a lone wolf and I'm walk by the beat of my own drum, so they can just deal with it. All right, I'm going to carry my knife because freedom and something. And no, I'm probably just not going to bring it. You know, I don't need to do that. Who's that? Who's that for? That's for nobody. That's for me, right? That would, this hypothetical weird version of me that would not exist. No, I'm going to know beforehand, before we get there, I'm not going to bring it, right? Also, if I'm going to go out to have a good time. I don't know about you guys, but when I go out to have a good time, party a little bit, hang out with friends, go to the bar or whatever, I don't like to bring my knife with me. I know that different people have different thoughts about that. I just don't want it at all, right? And it's not because I feel like if I'm, having a good time that I'm going to be more likely to like use it in a way that it's not intended to be used or that would get me into trouble. No, I don't want it accessible to anyone. I don't think it's a good idea to be around people and, knowing myself, I like to show off my pocket knife, right? And sometimes, around people that they might be okay. Maybe they're a little bit more likely to do something irresponsible with it when they're having a good time. But if you're out in public and you don't know everybody, then yeah, that's definitely not a good idea. That happened one time where I had a guy do something a little bit stupid. It was an OTF, right? And I was like, okay, well, I'm never bringing a knife with me ever again, right? People are dumb, like people in general. I do dumb things too. We're all dumb. We all have dumb tendencies. People who don't understand what it is that they're looking at, right? Which, when it comes to this section of the knife world, that's the vast majority of people who live on this earth. They have no idea, right? So I'm going to know my point is, I'm going to know beforehand not to bring it with me. But when I'm at home, there's only two places that I ever put a knife. Dedicated. I don't need to tell you, right? But most of you are the same. If you have never looked at a knife as anything more than just a cheap cutting tool, which again is what the vast majority of people look at knives as, and that's fine. If that's the way that you feel about knives, that's fine. I don't know what you're doing on my channel. Welcome to my channel. Arms open. Well, I'm glad you're here, right? But you're going to get introduced to some stuff that's going to blow your little brain apart, right? And you can pump the brakes and you can, no, you can all you want, but I'm going to be here. I've been here for a while. But, having dedicated, organization for this stuff, right? And it doesn't have to, I'm not saying like you got to go out and buy an 80 slot case. You can keep your 80 knives. Like I do that, but as a collector, I do. I'm just saying, if you got one or two pocket knives, right? And they've always been cheapies, then yeah, dumping them out when you come home, then dumping them out on the counter or the table or whatever, that's probably normal, right? Because you don't value those. They're not items of value beyond just like the simple application, right? And that's totally fine. But the fear comes from the idea that you are going to do that. You're going to act exactly the same way with an expensive knife as you would an inexpensive knife. And the truth is no. Unless there's something wrong with your brain, that's not what's going to happen. You are going to baby it, right? a lot at first, and then less later, but you're still going to be substantially more aware of it. So having a dedicated spot for it, wherever, if it's one place, two places, three places, whatever, if I reach into my pocket and the knife that I'm carrying isn't there, I know 100% there's only three places it could be. The place in my truck or the two places in my house. That is it. I don't leave them anywhere. I don't take my knives out and just leave them. I don't do that, right? So I feel that the vast majority of people who decide to graduate into the next tier, whatever that is, if you decide to spend more money, it's very, very, very unlikely that you're going to actually lose it or misplace it, as long as you are smart about where you're bringing it. Don't bring it to a place where you might have to go, oh, well, I don't want to bring it in, right? Don't even bring it. I mean, but this is common sense. Like, just generic common sense will solve the vast majority of issues, right? Is it possible somebody could steal it off of you? If you have to leave it in your vehicle, somebody could break into your vehicle and take it. Well, sure, right? That absolutely can happen. I'm not saying that it won't happen or it's impossible. I'm saying it happens way less often than I think people fear. We always assume the worst, right? So I would say roll the dice, take a chance, right? Whatever you normally, if you're somebody who, especially, I think this video is specifically for these types of people. If you're somebody who regularly buys inexpensive, let's say you are an enthusiast, you are kind of a collector, but you use this stuff, right? You like to buy a new, fun, inexpensive knife periodically. I would say that's pretty common, right? That's kind of the baseline for people who watch my channel. Whatever it is you buy, there's a ton of people who probably like to buy a lot of inexpensive knives, and they just don't really ever buy an expensive knife. Some of them don't buy an expensive knife because they're afraid they might lose it, right? Take whatever money you would normally spend on a knife and just hold on to it for an extra couple of months. If you buy a knife once a month or every few months, right, just hold on to it. I know it's going to get real itchy, but believe me, that's how I climbed the ladder the first time. I just gritted my teeth and forced myself to save instead of spending it, right? Buy yourself something nice. If you want to. I'm not saying if you don't want to, then don't do it. But I'm saying if you already kind of want to and you're just being held back by the fear of losing it, save. Buy something a little bit nicer and watch exactly what I'm saying unfold, right? It seems like such a simple thing, but I can't tell you how often I hear this, right? You will protect it. And worst case scenario, let's say you buy it and you're like, well, I'm not really worried about losing it. I just decided it's not really for me. The nice thing is the more expensive the thing that you buy is, the more likely you're going to get the vast majority back out of it if you decide to resell it, right? So that's a totally different topic. But I felt like this might alleviate some stress for some people, right? I mean, if you're, and again, it goes for anybody. If you're carrying a $200 knife and you're like, I don't want to carry a $500 knife, that would make me a little bit uncomfortable. It's the same kind of deal, right? If I'm carrying my Hinderer, which actually is this full tie one is, I think is 625. I carry this guy all the time, and I get it out and use it like a tool, right? I don't really care if the pocket clip has scratches on it or if the edge has been a little bit, I think I just actually freshly stropped this one. Yeah, it's still got a little bit, it's got some teeth on it. A couple of little spots here or there. I think maybe this one needs to be stropped again. But take it out and use it, right? But I am not going to toss this thing around and just leave it on a surface. No way. No way. I'm 100 times more likely to do it with something like this, even though I would still be bummed to lose it. But I am 100 times more likely to just not be paying attention and kind of toss that one around and not really pay attention to where it is. No way. No way I'm just going to lay my Hinderer out somewhere, right? It doesn't matter how many super duper multi-$1,000 knives I've bought or how many knives I have. I'm still very much aware that the thing in my pocket is an expensive knife and it is not something I want to lose. And I feel like the vast majority of people would feel exactly the same way. I had reservations, the exact same types of reservations before I started buying expensive knives, especially when I decided, because at first I bought them just to collect. They were just safe queens. Right? Because I didn't want to carry them. I didn't want to beat them up and I was afraid of losing them. Once I finally started doing it, I realized this thing only has two modes. Out of the pocket and in use, or in the pocket. That's it. There are no other modes, right? Again, accidents happen. I get that. way less likely to occur than I think people are afraid of. I'm getting to the point where I'm repeating myself. This is just a topic that I realized I don't think I've ever really talked about, and I wanted to talk about it today. I hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know what you think down in the comments. Please make sure to follow me on Instagram at metal_complex. If you enjoyed this video, leave a like. If you'd like to check out my other content, I do, of course, have lots of videos of knives that are either expensive or inexpensive that I do or don't like, so check those out. And if you enjoy all my content, go ahead and click on that Metal Complex logo right there and subscribe because there's definitely more coming. Thanks again for watching, everybody, and have a great day.